Hey there, strangers and rangers. We are back at it again with Draw Me After You, Let Us Run. We are going to be reading chapter 2 today. This is the third time I've tried it today because I keep having a frog in my throat, so hopefully this works out just fine. Chapter 2. Harry can still feel his rage, even when he gets far enough on his firebolt that the rain is a distant memory. As he stumbles to a stop in a clearing not far from a nearby town, Harry winces as his body protests. He aches in places he shouldn't. He's covered in mud. He's bleeding. He can remember for one blissful second the absolute fear Voldemort felt, echoing into Harry with such depth that it nearly deafened him when Harry plummeted off the side of the cliff before him. Digging around in the moleskin pouch Hermione pressed into his hands years ago, he pulls out a mirror. He's smiling when the person on the other end picks up. Scene break. In third year, when Harry Potter found out all he thought there was to know about Sirius Black, but before he actually knew it all, he'd been angry. Or rather, he thought he'd been angry. Later, much later, he realized he'd been mad, yes, but he'd also been hurt. He'd also been alone. Even his own godfather had wanted him dead. Who else out there could ever want him? Scene break. Yule at Grimmauld Place is lively, despite the heavy air that hangs over the Weasleys. Harry is content, but feels like he is somehow walking on eggshells, that this family full of red hair and big smiles is fragile, that with one wrong word, one wrong touch, they will shatter under the pressure of it all. Harry knows the feeling. He tries his best not to think too much about his conversation with the headmaster, tries not to let the weight of it hold him, frozen on the precipice of decision. Because despite the reluctance with which Dumbledore unfolded what he believed he knew, Harry does have a decision to make. It's what leads him to avoiding the happy, coalescing family in the lower floors. It's what leads him to exploring what broken, dilapidated doors will open to him, floorboards creaking beneath his feet as he walks the darkened halls. Some of these rooms are still dangerous, you know. Harry looks up from his spot on the floor in one of the many bedrooms, papers all around him on a worn, dusty carpet. Sirius stands in the doorway like he's unsure of his welcome, leaning against the jamb, his hands stuffed into the pockets of threadbare pants that might have looked fetching were it not for the years of disuse. Harry offers him a crooked little grin and shrugs. Has a bit of danger ever stopped me before? No, Sirius laughs. No, I suppose it hasn't. What are you reading? In his lap there's a journal. Each page is signed R.A.B., and Harry doesn't know who that is, but he seems young, and he seems just as lonely as Harry in some of the entries. A journal. Harry holds it up. Do you know who? My brother, Sirius says, tapping the backs of his knuckles against the open door with a little sigh. Regulus. This was his room. Surprised you were able to get in. I thought that blasted little house elf sealed it shut. Harry shrugs again. Didn't give me much trouble. I just asked. Sirius's brows fly up. You asked Creature? I asked the house, Harry says. I like how I said that both of those as a question. Sirius blinks at him and then beams. Course you did. And as the heir, they open for you. Tilting his head, Harry purses his lips. The heir? Finally pushing off the door jamb, Sirius pads into the room and plops down in front of him on the floor. There's a plume of dust that follows, making them both laugh and cough, but Sirius fans it away with a roguish smile as he crosses his legs under himself to mirror Harry on the carpet. I've missed quite a bit of your life, pup, Sirius says when the dust finally settles enough that there's only specks of it catching what little light there is like freshly falling snow. And that's my fault. But even long before that, I knew the moment you were born that those big green eyes and those tiny chubby fists had stolen my heart. I never planned on having children, so when your father asked me to be godfather, I named you my heir as well. You're... Harry blinks a few times and then shoves his glasses up his nose to squint at him. But why would you do that? Because as much as you were James and Lily's son, you were my godson. My little pup, Sirius says, looking away with a soft sigh, and he looks suddenly so much older than he really is, like all the years of fighting, of being in Azkaban, of being in hiding has finally caught up to him. He's barely 36, and he looks 50. I regret, every day, that I was too blinded by anger to stop, Harry says, reaching over and laying a hand over one of Sirius's. It's okay. The past doesn't matter. You're here now. Yes, well, Sirius clears his throat. Not all here all the time, am I? Harry knows what he means. He's seen it on occasion, the way Sirius will lose himself in memories and then in a bottle. He's seen Remus guide him up the stairs. He's seen the dark bruising under his eyes in the morning. But Harry can't hold it against him. He's been broken and sad too. You're here now, Harry repeats, squeezing at his hand like that's all that matters. In a way, it is. Sirius looks at him. His eyes flit over Harry's face, and he wonders if he sees his father in his expression, or his mother, or if he sees just Harry. His hand flips over under Harry's fingers. Sirius's curl around his own, perhaps a bit tighter than necessary, as he offers another crooked smile. Harry's chest fills with warmth. Yes, I'm here now. It feels, strangely, like a promise. Scene break. The first Christmas Harry ever had was at age 11. He did not receive much, but he had not expected anything. Each gift had made his heart swell. Even now, a too large Weasley sweater makes him feel like a part of a family he'd always wanted but never had. As he sits in the parlor, arms over his knees with the rest of the Weasleys and Sirius and Hermione, watching them pass presents to each other over warm cider and cookies and fairy lights, Harry feels at home. He feels a deep, undeniable sense of belonging. His content smile only falters when he thinks about not having this, about it ending. Scene break. It is this idea, dreadful and lonely as it is, of being without that keeps Harry up that night. Ron is snoring loudly in the bed across from him. On his back, Harry lays in bed awake for the longest time. He stares up at the ceiling, hands over his stomach, breathing slow as he thinks and thinks and thinks about all that Dumbledore told him. Mostly, though, he thinks about Tom Riddle. About the angry boy from a diary he destroyed, about what it must have been like to grow up alone the way that they both did, unloved, feared in what was supposed to be a home, in what it could have been if Harry had not found Ron or Hermione or all the others who have slowly made him feel a little less alone in this world. About if he'd never found this, if he would have turned out just as angry. It's nearly the witching hour when Harry finally gives up on trying to find sleep. Quietly, carefully, he creeps out of the bedroom and he shares with Ron and down the stairs. He minds the first landing and the curtains that cover the portrait of Walburga Black and eases down the stairs before heading toward the kitchens. He thinks perhaps a cup of tea will do him some good. He's not expecting the old black house elf creature to be lingering about the kitchen so late in the evening. He stops in the doorway, blinking at the wooden spoon the old thing brandishes like a weapon all its own. Filthy half-blood, desecrating the noble house of Black, creature grumbles, eyes narrowed on Harry. Bringing in the blood traitors to dirty up my mistress's home. Creature, Harry breathes, easing around him toward the stove where the kettle sits, and he recalls the way Sirius has scolded him and thrown him out when he lets that kind of talk flow free. That's very rude. Would your mistress want you to be rude? Creature seems to falter, wooden spoon lowering, and he watches Harry with narrowed eyes. What does the half-blood want? He croaks. Just making some tea, Harry says. Would you like some? Creature seems to tremble as Harry plucks up the kettle. Then, with his wrinkled face scrunched up, he rushes over and bats at Harry's legs. Away, away, half-blood. Creature will be making the tea. Creature grouses, bullying Harry back until he's falling into an open chair at the table, kettle still in hand and eyes wide. It is Creature's job, and the half-blood will not be stealing it. I wasn't trying to steal anything. Half-blood heir not knowing his place, Creature grumbles, snapping his fingers and taking the kettle away from Harry's loose, surprised fingers. Harry watches it float over to the sink, watches it fill, watches it drift to the stove. Creature must obey. Half-blood asking if Creature wants tea. Bah! A wry little smile finds its way onto Harry's face. He's not sure exactly what he's done wrong, but he's happy to sit patiently as Creature putters about the kitchen, mumbling to himself of blacks and half-bloods and wizards who don't know their own standing. In a way, it's endearing, this grouchy old house elf worrying over him. It reminds him, oddly, of Severus Snape, spitting insults this way and that, but stepping in front of him on a full moon anyway. It's a strange thought, one that Harry doesn't linger over as he instead zones out the soft noise of the house elf working in the quiet dark of the kitchen. Before long, there is a steaming cup of tea in front of him and a plate of leftover cookies. Harry's smile comes easy, if a little tired, as Creature hovers and stares up at him with big, narrowed eyes. "Thank you, Creature," he says. "I appreciate it." Creature sneers. "Ridiculous, eh? Stupid half-blood." "Yes, I suppose I am," Harry nods, picking up his tea. "I'll clean up if you'd like to get some rest." Before Harry can properly finish, Creature has that wooden spoon again. He swats at Harry, and Harry winces back with a bit of a laugh. "The half-blood will do no such thing," Creature snaps. "The heir of the ancient most noble house of Black will not be rid of Creature so easily." "Sorry," Harry chuckles into his teacup. "Didn't mean anything by it." Creature prods at one of Harry's knees with the end of the spoon. "Excuse me. That is one of those things that I need to fix." Okay. Creature prods at one of Harry's knees with the end of the spoon. "The filthy half-blood heir will not be doing the cleanings. Is Creature understood?" "Yes, Creature." Harry dutifully nods his head. Creature seems to straighten some, giving a jerky nod. "Good," he says, then with a great deal of reluctance stares at Harry with bright expectation. "Does the filthy blood traitor's heir need anything else of Creature?" For a moment Harry is at a loss. He knows what he's heard from Sirius, that Creature is hard-headed and unwilling to help them clean up the old Black estate, that Creature grouses and sneers and refuses most orders. Yet here he is, asking for some. Hermione would kill him if she knew. "Could you start cleaning up the place a bit?" Harry asks, a little hesitant. "I'm sure your old mistress would hate the state the place has fallen into." "The blood traitor's fault," Creature insists with a snap, but is already nodding his head. "Left it decay. Does not let Creature do his job." Harry shrugs. "Who cares about letting? It's your home too, isn't it?" Creature stares at him. His expression of disdain seems to lessen some. He points the wooden spoon right in Harry's face. "Strange heir," he says. "He will not do the cleaning up when he's done." "Promise," Harry replies. With a little nod, Creature stares, unblinking at him for a moment longer, and then pops away. In the hush of the kitchen after he's gone, Harry sits there sipping his tea, bemused. Scene break. Harry had to make himself useful when at the Dursleys'. There was no time that he can remember where he was not meant to be useful, to clean, to cook, to garden for the relatives that only put up with him, only clothed him and sheltered him for his usefulness. He thinks perhaps he understands why Creature hates Sirius so much sometimes. Scene break. Harry wakes in the sitting room just before dawn. The tree is still in the corner, glittering with light, and there is a moth-bitten blanket draped across him. It's worn, but clean. Warm. In the hearth there is a low fire. Despite this all, the room is dark, dim, though perhaps a little less dreary, and the empty teacup Harry had left on the table next to the chair he eventually curled up in is long gone. There is no sign of Creature. A hand is on his shoulder, warm and large. Harry blinks up, blind, and sees Sirius's dark hair and house robe and crooked smile. "What are you doing down here, pup?" he asks. Harry shifts, wincing at the little aches and pains born of sleeping curled up in a chair that hardly hold a candle to the ones he knew growing up sleeping in a cupboard. "Couldn't sleep last night." Sirius frowns. "Nightmares?" Harry shakes his head. "Visions?" Harry huffs. "No, just couldn't sleep." Sirius nods and he hums. Carefully, his hand eases from Harry's shoulder to the top of his head, as though he is unsure if his touch is welcome or not. Harry, unused to the gentle, cautious affection, stills. Rough fingers card through the mess of his hair, scratch at his scalp. leave him shuddering out a breath and closing his eyes. Sirius laughs a little, rounding the wingback Harry's tucked into, and sits on the arm without stopping. Coaxes him into leaning more fully into his touch, scrubs at his scalp with slow, easy circles until Harry's face is pressed into his ribs. "You're too young to be without sleep," Sirius says, thumb passing back and forth behind his ear, and Harry feels completely and totally cared for in this moment. "It'll stunt your growth." Harry laughs against Sirius's side. "No wonder I'm so short." "Yes," Sirius says, and Harry can hear his smile. "We'll work on it." Smiling, sleep-heavy and happily doped on the steady touch of Sirius's fingers in his hair, Harry hums. "I like the sound of that." Scene break. For a long time, Harry has had no one to care for him, no one to touch him kindly, no one to pet through his hair and tell him that he needs more sleep. He cannot imagine a life of this, a life of absence, a life bereft. He cannot imagine what it would turn him into. Harry stays at Grimmauld Place with Hermione, with the Weasleys, with Sirius for the entirety of the winter holidays. He sleeps across from Ron's snoring, spends the days playing chess and exploding Snap and avoiding the twins' newest prototypes. He spends it happy. He spends it warm. He gets no visions. Still, a decision hangs over his head as heavy as the weight of Dumbledore's gaze. It is on the last days of break when it finally happens, when that edge, that precipice Harry has been ignoring despite its drawing, precarious closeness, finally makes itself unignorable. It is late at night. It is with Grimmauld Place and its sleeping occupants quiet in the dark. It is with Harry up and unable to sleep in bed while Ron snores, a journal that is not his own pressed to his knees, one glowing with a gentle lumos. It is with a final entry from Sirius Black's younger brother, Regulus, scrawled quickly and messily into the back pages. Off and on, Harry has been reading Regulus's old journal during the break, trying to understand the mind of a young man Sirius himself said was very much not like him at all, having followed in his parents' footsteps and been swayed to the dark. And yet, as the entries continued, Harry had felt an odd kinship, and really, Harry really should be concerned with how many dark wizards he's beginning to identify with. To him, as he struggled with the expectations placed on his shoulders by those around him. It kept him reading on the nights he couldn't sleep. It keeps him reading now as he stumbles across the last of Regulus's entries before his disappearance and assumed death, and as Harry rushes through his messy scrawl, shoulders climbing to his ears, he knows that Regulus must indeed be lost to the world. There is no other way he could have survived, not with the confessions he spilled in these back pages. "I know the Dark Lord's secrets. I know what he made Kreacher do. I know what he made Kreacher hide in that cave. The piece of his broken soul. I know what must be done." Harry is out of bed before he can think. Out the door and down the stairs, bursting into the kitchen and hissing for Kreacher in the dark. The pop of sound makes the house elf known. Harry drops to his knees before him, holding out the journal with wide eyes and shaking hands as Kreacher stares at him with contempt and caution. "What does the half-blood heir be needing?" Kreacher croaks into the dark shadows of the room, his face more severe than ever before. "Your master!" Harry's voice wobbles and he wets his lips, shoving the journal toward Kreacher. "Kreacher? Your master Regulus, he says you hid something for Voldemort." Kreacher cringes away as he snatches the book from Harry's hands, cradling it to his chest. "The filthy half-blood will not speak his name." "I'm sorry, Kreacher, but—" He wets his lips again, practically crawling after Kreacher as the house elf backs away. "But I need to know what it was. Where it was. What Regulus—" Kreacher hisses. "What your master did with it. Whatever it was. What your master did with whatever it was that was hidden," Harry hisses. "Please, Kreacher. It's very important." "What does the half-blood want with it?" Kreacher asks, eyes narrowed. "Disgusting dark magic. The half-blood should not want it." "Do you know where it is, Kreacher? Do you know what Regulus did with it?" Kreacher's mouth wobbles. He blinks his big eyes like he might cry. "Master Regulus was a good master. Not like the blood traitor," Kreacher says. "Master Regulus was honorable." "I believe you," Harry breathes. "I believe you, Kreacher. What did he do with the thing the Dark Lord made you hide?" "Master tried to destroy it. Creature stares at Harry and then stares at a small cupboard behind him, hidden in long, dark shadows. He told Creature to destroy it when he could not. Creature failed. Harry's gaze follows Creature's. And there's another typo, excuse me. Harry's gaze follows Creature's. He stares at the little wooden door. On his hands and knees in the middle of the kitchen, Harry breathes out. It's here, Harry says. Creature's eyes snap back to him as he shuffles to block the way between Harry and the door. Creature will not. Creature, Harry says, firm, his fingers curling uselessly into the stone of the floor, but before he softens his tone. Creature, please, listen to me. I can take care of it. If you let me, I can take care of it for you. Creature's long nose scrunches up. A half-blood will not succeed where Master Regulus has failed. But I already have Creature, Harry says. There was something else, just like it, and I took care of it in my second year at Hogwarts. If you let me, I can take care of that one too. Creature doesn't move, does not waver. Harry holds his gaze and then holds out a hand. Please, Creature, I promise you, I will take care of it. Please. Creature clutches Regulus's journal tighter to his chest. His wrinkled lips purse. It is unseemly for the heir of the ancient and most noble house of Black to beg, Creature croaks. And then he moves toward the cupboard. Scene break. In the dungeons, surrounded by fire, Harry Potter faced Lord Voldemort alone. In the Chamber of Secrets, he faced Lord Voldemort alone. In the graveyard, Cedric's body cooling in the grass, he faced Lord Voldemort alone. He has always been alone. Scene break. The green light from the flue is nearly blinding in the parlor. All around him is the arching branches of the Black family tree. He wonders briefly what they would all think of what he is doing. Headmaster Dumbledore's office, Hogwarts. Harry hisses into the flame, leaning over it on his hands and knees. Professor, are you there? He waits, holding his breath. There is only the sound of the fire crackling. Professor Dumbledore, Harry says a little louder, spine rigid and heart racing as he clutches the cold, whispering metal of a locket in his hand. There is a sound, and then Dumbledore is there, frowning at Harry through the embers. Harry, my boy. Harry, my boy, Dumbledore says. What is it? Harry's throat works. I found one. Oh dear, Dumbledore blinks. I was not expecting that. Harry lets out a half-hysteric laugh of a sound. Neither was I. Dumbledore nods. Dumbledore nods, and Harry can't see it, but he imagines that Dumbledore is stroking his beard. What do you need of me, dear boy? I don't... Harry breathes out sharp. I don't know what to do. I don't know if I should... Harry thinks he might split apart, thinks he might crumble under the weight of making a single choice. Dumbledore seems to understand, his face softening around the eyes. I think perhaps one more piece to the puzzle might help. Can you come through? Yes, Harry nods. Yes, just let me grab my things. I will await your return, Harry. Withdrawing from the fire, Harry moves to stand, to go upstairs, to grab his things, to face this, once again, alone. He stops as he sees Sirius standing in the threshold between the parlor and the foyer, his arms folded and his eyes on Harry's own wide gaze. Where do you think you're going, pup? Sirius asks, but it is not anger on his face. Anger in his face? Yeah, no, I want anger on his face. Sorry. Third typo. Yikes. But it is not anger on his face. Just something tired, something resigned. I have a decision to make, Harry confesses, and a task to complete. And you've decided you'll do it by yourself? Harry's lips press thin. It's how I've always done it in the end. Sirius's mouth twists into a grimace. Then he paces forward and stops in front of Harry. He reaches out, takes Harry's face between his hands, and stares him down. Not this time. Harry very nearly weeps, feels the burn of his eyes, the give in his knees. He clutches at Sirius's wrists. It's dangerous, Harry says. Sirius grins, wide and bright, and with too much teeth. Half mad, glorious. Has danger ever stopped us before? Sirius asks. Harry laughs and presses impossibly close, hides his face in Sirius's chest, clutches at his robe, sags with the relief that this time he will not be alone. Scene break. It is not a weakness to need help. It is not a weakness to ask for it. It is not a weakness to accept it. End of chapter 2. Thank you very much for being here with me in this little read through. I hope you enjoyed, even, bar some mistakes and some typo pauses and some silly, goofy voices. If you are enjoying, please feel free to leave a comment down below. Give this a little like so that I know that these aren't here for nothing. And then if you would like more, other than the first 5 chapters, please consider becoming a patron. Links for everything are down in the description. Have a good day.